Hello, welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad. Now, Matt and Shad are out this week, so I have a very special guest, my good friend, Mr. Beefy from the YouTube channel Beefy Bites, longtime listener of the show, and he and I have, oh man, we've probably been in like the same communities for 20 some years now.
Probably. And hello, and thank you for having me on. But yeah, we've been in the same circle for a long time because even before our tabletop games, I think we were. I mean, are you still on Atari Age?
I haven't been for a long time because they sold a long time ago. But yeah, we crossed over in that. Did how far back in the Phil Singer community? Do you go back to the guest book days on Phil Singer or the message board days?
Mm, not the guest.
Chris,
Oh, geez.
Chris oh, I can't pronounce his last name. I can see it. The original message board that like Chris, I think like Enzergold or Enzen or something like that
Oh,
owned, and like
yeah.
the Swarm offshoot board, and then
I was there for that.
did you have a? That was the other thing I was going to ask because I was looking through to see if you had one. Did you have a character in the GWFZ territories set?
Yes, I had three. The first one I got was Lone Star, and I think.
And you got that?
Oh, what set was that?
Was that that was in? So you won a contest for that one, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a drawing. Like if you pre-ordered the previous one, everyone got in a drawing for that. And then the final one, I did a tag team for
Okay.
them. I called them the Man Eaters. It was two people that weren't from Andromeda, but altered themselves to look like cat people, and so that would have been the final set of that huge BWFZ set.
Okay, cool. So, if you're tuning in, so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to talk to Mr. Beefy about kind of his fandom, how he became a fan, and then we're going to get into um, tabletop wrestling because he and I have done a lot of that with Phil Singer Game Systems and GoFightPow. And then I kind of wanted to get into it. It's probably a little more of an esoteric topic, but I wanted to talk a bit about our booking philosophies with that. Because if you haven't done tabletop, the thing I tell people about tabletop, and Mr. Beefy will agree with this, is to do like tabletop wrestling, you have to be into it enough that you can be like a year and a half into a promotion and two nobodies is still interesting to you to book on like the undercard of
Mhm.
like show number 150 that you've done.
Yep.
Um, which is I think what people don't get when they get into like fantasy booking or tabletop wrestling if you're going to do it long term. They're just thinking about like the oh, how do I get my champions done and stuff, and like when I give them advice I'm like, well, no, you really need to like you'll know you're into it when it's month 6 and like Brad Armstrong versus like I don't know, Coco Beware is interesting to you as a
Yep.
matchup. So
Yep.
let's get into like I guess the easy question to start with. So what is like how did you become a fan? Like what did you become a fan? Like what was your like introduction to wrestling?
That's going to be my family. So I am the third child of six. So I had two older brothers, and um, my parents probably needed some time away from us a lot because we lived in a small house. So every weekend we'd go to my grandma's. And my grandma back at that time had cable, which, we only had two, maybe three channels if we were lucky on a given day. So on the weekends, we would be watching a lot of wrestling. My uncle Joe watched wrestling a lot. My grandpa watched wrestling quite a bit. So really, that's what drew me into it. Was I was with my family and they were watching it, and so I got into it. And that was really the introduction, was going to visit grandma's house and getting to watch cable and seeing all these people doing everything in the ring.
It was were you watching a lot of world championship wrestling then since it was cable
when
or
when I was younger, probably like really young, um I can't remember much of it. I'm sure there was some of that, but predominantly what I remember is a little bit more of the WWF stuff.
Okay.
That stuck out a little bit more.
So then
But
you're like most of us because we're about the same age. You were traumatized by the snake biting Macho Man.
uh, uh, oh, good times. Yes, the snake with no teeth that he was bleeding out the. Yes, that
There's
was.
there's always two, and I joked about that a week or two ago. It's either the two that people always mention for traumatizing them is that, or the Road Warriors putting the spike in Dusty's eye.
I don't remember that one, but I think you all mentioned it too. Was Earthquake in the Snake?
Oh
I think
yeah,
that was another one.
yeah. Was there another? I feel like there was another one in there, but I don't remember.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
So who were like your early favorites then?
So when it came to like the family stuff, my grandpa was a big Jim Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan fan. So always liked him. He was a good baby face. Always like hearing you all talk about him, about how like massive he is. I'd love to meet him in person, because it sounds like he's a pretty cool guy. So
there's
him,
there's a lost episode that the audio got screwed up because so what happened is I'd had something where my webcam was in and my audio came through the webcam and screwed it up, but it was the lost episode was Hacksaw Jim Duggan pre WWE, so we watched like his Mid South stuff. And there is and I recommend anyone watching this look it up, and especially you. His taped fist match with Ted DiBiase in Mid South is awesome.
that would probably be pretty fun.
Because
I need to.
like in Mid South he's different. Like he's still like he's a really good worker in Mid South. He's not like as old and like phoning in as much, and he's just like he's kind of like a dumb caveman in that like oh well if I get in trouble I'll just punch my way out. But like the Mid South Jim Duggan is just like Billy badass like blue collar guy. Like he's awesome.
Well, and I could totally see that. That would be perfect for her, and that's why I like watching your or listening mainly to your podcast. I guess I'm now watching it a lot more. Is I hear more about that stuff than that I wasn't exposed. So I'm the cookie cutter WWF. That's where I come from. But when I hear y'all talking about those matches, some of those old matches, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he was silly in the WWF, but he could totally be someone that I would just run away from. Like if he was
Oh
mad and going after me, I would just
yeah,
nope, I'm gone, noping out.
yeah. I mean
So
even what was that a year or two ago where someone like broke into his house and he apprehended him with a gun. Like
uh,
that was recently.
yeah,
But yeah, I haven't met Greg Valentine's because Shad says Greg Valentine's like that too. But like if you shake his hand, like he just has like his hands are massive. Like I don't think I've met several wrestlers and I never had that like same impression of any of them.
hmm uh, Greg Valentine was another one. My dad liked him. One of the ones my dad liked. So and Dad liked Harley Race, and there was a lot of that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch a lot of Harley Race in his good best years, probably. But those were a lot of the favorites of my family. So that's kind of like when it came to WWF, yeah, there was King Harley Race, there was Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Greg the Hammer Valentine. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the era that I grew up in. A lot of those that I remember. Um, and I don't know, were they Jack's toys that were the large rubber guys that were probably about yay tall?
Oh,
And they only had pose. They weren't opposable, but they were rubbery.
they were LBJ, weren't they?
That's it. That's it. We had a bunch of those, and Greg the Hammer Valentine was one. Um, and George the Animal Steel, like kid me, like George the Animal Steel, just because he was goofy and silly and all that. But yeah, when I was really little, some of the ones that stuck out were like that, and then obviously as I got a little older, around toddler age, 4, 5, it was Hulkamania, eat your vitamins and all that stuff, say your prayers. So, but yeah, but yeah, my introduction comes from the family of it, and so that's where a lot of the early favorites also kind of came from too.
Okay. And then so then were you pretty much like just like a WWE guy even through like the Monday Night Wars and stuff like that, or did you ever venture over
For
to
the
like
most
the
part, I didn't venture over very often. I would once in a while, but I didn't know him as much. I didn't
Mhm.
grow, so it was more of just natural progression. And I guess being younger, now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, I see something on, I'll watch it. Just
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be what I normally watch to enjoy. But I think when I was younger, that's why I gravitated more towards WWF. Um, like during the Monday Night Wars, I've watched like the documentary thing they had
Mhm.
on the um the network, the WWE network, and I tried to go back and watch some of that time frame, and I know I loved it back in the day, but it is hard to go back and
Oh,
watch.
it's
Um,
there's some
I
there's some gems in WCW because you'll get like the random cruiserweight match that's really good, but like man, like the peak Vince Russo WWE like attitude era is just terrible. Like people have such an affinity for that. I'm like, I dare you go back and watch like the 2 minute matches, like just the terrible angles and stuff.
that I agree with you on that because I tried doing it. Like I'm just gonna start at the Attitude Era and start watching some Raws and stuff. I'm like, it's not how I remember. I mean, it
Yeah,
obviously was popular and won them everything. I will say, out of all the old stuff in that era that I've gone back and watched, I think I've enjoyed the W stuff a little bit better. And I don't know if it's because I don't have those rose tinted glasses that are getting shattered when I watch it. But I was having a little bit easier time watching that.
I,
I think revisiting it, but too, you also had more of appreciation, like you said, for the cruiserweights and stuff, which they didn't get pushed that well in WWF at the time.
yeah. I think why WCW hits a little better is you get a little variety. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
at least you know. I think they stuck a little more in ring. Like for me, if you stick in ring, even if the in ring isn't great, like it's not terrible. But I also think some things age better. Like I talk about Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and it aged better than ECW because Smoky Mountain Wrestling is just like this hokey, out of its time crap anyway. So it kind of like the hokiness lets it age well. And then you go back and watch ECW, and I appreciate some of the booking stuff, but it's like, it's that 90s extreme thing kind of doesn't age well in
Yeah,
general.
and I think it's maybe because I'm older too, and I watch, and that's even like some of the modern stuff now. I'll watch, and I'll be yelling at the screen, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it!" And it's probably because I'm getting older,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, just no, you don't have to almost break your neck for me to enjoy your match. Like you don't have to do these flippy flops or get on the highest ladder and jump. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to do that.
I will say
But no,
I will say with Darby, after seeing him wrestle live a couple times and like seeing like the way, like if you watch him move, he's really interesting to watch, like the way his body works. And I watched him a couple times. I'm like, you know what? You do a lot of dumb stuff, but like there's something about the way like his body moves and like the way his weight shifts. I'm just like, I think you can probably get away with doing that dumb crap because there's something about the way you like work as a human that can handle that. He's really like
I haven't.
he's really
I
weird.
haven't
Like
had a chance to see him live, but I think I know what you're getting at. I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of him. I've enjoyed it, but he's almost like an acrobat, like
I
less
almost
wrestler, more acrobat. Like that's his build.
I
Like
always feel like
it's
when you watch him move, if you ever seen ballet, he has like there's a very
yes,
he's very graceful. Like it's almost like insane like how graceful, how fluid, how like easy his movement in the ring is.
hmm yeah, yeah. I could totally see that from him. But yeah,
I
not everyone has that ability
yeah.
to do that.
I also think with the modern era too is like it's very easy to find things that are way more tailored to your interests than like back in the day. Like when Shikara was there, like I really liked Shikara. That's actually what got me back in I think in the early 10s, because it was just like it was fun. It was goofy, but I liked it.
Yep. Yeah, more options is definitely better. I know I think messaged you sometimes about like how expensive the New Japan subscription is, or y'all have talked about Stardom some,
Yeah.
and I'm really, I mean, I'm trying to cut back on all my streaming services, so I haven't delved into any of them, but I like that those options are out there.
Well, good news for you. The yen is really bad right now. I think my Stardom subscription last month was $6. And it
Oh,
used
geez, maybe I need to look into it.
yeah, so
I'll use that as an excuse for like an early birthday gift. I'm gonna subscribe to the Japanese Women's Wrestling Organization.
so what's nice about
Maybe I'll do that.
Stardom is a lot of the stuff they like dub the well no they subtitle the promos and stuff so you can see what they're saying. It's very English friendly. Now New Japan they just raised the price to I think 1,250 yen versus 999. So it is probably about $7 or $8 now. But
That's still not bad.
and then if you do DDT Universe is actually a pretty good deal because you get DDT Noah, Tokyo Joshi Pro, and I think someone else. Um, One of the other guys that watches other Brad will probably be screaming at me what it is, but that's 800 or 900 yen. So that one's like, yeah. So it used to be like 999 yen. You were paying between like 750 and 850 a month for New Japan, and then when like all of this recent stuff happens, the yen's gotten really bad. So like, there's a lot of months where that's like, I think I've even paid under six. I think there's been some months where like it's been like
Jeez.
five something, like 580 or
That's
something.
not bad at all.
Yeah, and Stardom is really good, like really good work matches. They do a lot of stuff I like they chop the matches up individually. They don't do a lot of it live, so usually you get like it like a week later and over the course of a week. Um, they like a lot of the smaller shows are like tags and stuff, and you get some English commentary for the bigger stuff, but it's very English friendly. New Japan's pretty English friendly now too. Um, so do you watch much anymore? Or are you just kind of in and out and check it out?
Uh, I'm kind of in and out. We don't have any of the live services. Um, I like WWE still. I mean, I say that, but I don't really. Usually, what I watch, I don't pay attention to Raw or SmackDown.
Raw is a
It
slog
almost
at 3 hours.
well, that's the problem I have with it. And I live close to WLW Wrestling, Harley Race's league
Oh, is that
that
still
he
around?
had. Yes, I mean obviously he's gone, but Leland Race, who K-Fob is not his actual son, I don't believe.
Okay.
However, he was the guy that took care of Harley, so he kind of is his son. It's one of those like he was the guy that stayed around and kind of helped him.
Okay.
So he's not like biologically his son, but is his son. So like he gave him the Mantle of the Race name.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're still around. But one of the mottos early on when Harley had it was just shut up and wrestle. That was WLW, shut up and wrestle. And I like the mic work. I like the storylines. They just need to condense it down. Like it's too long with not enough wrestling. And it's like I go to see wrestling. Cut a little promo. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes. It definitely doesn't need to be 40 minutes. That's where I can't watch it anymore. I'm like, I want to watch the wrestling. That's where you tell me the story is in the ring,
Yeah.
not in a promo for 40 minutes.
And I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing. If you've listened to our show for a long time, we've talked about, or when we do old stuff, like those really well remembered segments from like the 80s and 90s, people remember, were not 30-minute promos. They were like little,
No.
like Piper smashing the coconut and Snooka's head was like a 2-minute segment. Like Piper's pits were like 2 or 3 minutes.
Well, and I've showed the wife, and she didn't watch wrestling at all until she met me. But I showed the wife the Dusty Rhodes one that everyone remembers. I'm like, look at how good this is.
And that's
And
what,
it's like,
2.5
what is
minutes?
that, 3 minutes?
I don't even think
Maybe,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
it's but everyone remembers that one. And it's like, it's so good. It's like you get out there, you get the people pumped, and then you fight. It's like that's what you do. And I feel like that 3 hour segment is almost too much time, which is sad because they have a lot of great talent that they could be filling in with. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of bothers me as I get older. And I wasn't as aware of it when I was younger, but it's like you got a lot of talent there. If you need to make another belt or a TV title or something, do it. Like,
It's just like
that.
when it's like a 2 hour show and like there's 30 minutes of wrestling. It's like, come on, guys. You can do better than
Well,
that.
and that's why I haven't looked at going to a live show in a long time. Sit there for that.
It's
Um,
I got burned on them a long time ago because like whenever I go, like the house shows are okay. Like if you want to go to a house show.
yes, yes, house shows are okay.
But
I agree with that.
they'll just leave you sitting like staring at a screen for 30 minutes at a time in WWE. And now like with AEW, I would recommend going to their shows because like so when they go to commercial and stuff like I have a much better appreciation for Justin Roberts after going to a live show. So he talks to you during the time. Like when I went the last time, he like the refs would come out and he's like, "Hey, like should I tell him?" And he's like, "Well, it's Bryce Remsburg Appreciation Night," and he just riffs and stuff during the thing. So like at AEW, it's almost the other opposite problem is they keep you engaged the whole time, and then you're like, "Well, I don't want to go to the bathroom because he's like doing stuff." But they'll come out like Tony Khan will come out and talk to the crowd before the show. Like some wrestler might come out and do a thing. Like if you go to commercial, like someone might come out that's about to do their segment and get the crowd riled up before you come back. Like they don't make you sit with nothing to do.
Yeah, and my brother has taken his kids to an AEW show, and they loved it. Like they just loved it, and it made me kind of jealous because I think I've skipped out on one or two opportunities on that. I would like to see one of their shows.
They
I
brought
don't get to
the
watch them as much as I like, but every time I watch them, I'm entertained, and it doesn't seem like a slog, like you said, with Raw or anything.
no, but they're about at that WWE problem where they have too much to watch now. Because it used to be when it was like Elevation and Dark, you could skip that because it was just squashes. But now with like Collision and Rampage and Dynamite, like it's right at that point where I have to like choose between them because like I can catch up sometimes, but like I like 5 hours for some reason like 3 hours I can do, but like when you start getting into 5 hours, it's a bit much. But like with WWE, it's like 7 hours I think with NXT now.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like we used to watch NXT religiously, and when they kind of incorporated it more into its in with SmackDown and Raw there for a while, like I liked it more when it was more like an indie fed.
Yeah,
Like that to me was the best and most entertainment we had when watching wrestling, and I do think that was on the network. I think we were
yeah,
watching that on net. Isn't that where they aired that? Yeah,
yeah. For a long
that's.
time, I think where
Mm-hmm.
I started losing it was right about. I would say I still enjoyed it for a long time, but like when Bobby Roode got the belt is I think where it started to go downhill, and then like when Adam Cole got the title, like is where they are really doing like the PWG booking. And like
Mm-hmm.
that was where like you would watch like a takeover and it'd be like 9:15 and they'd be coming out for the main event and you'd be like, "Oh, they're really doing another 45-minute match for
Yeah.
this." Like that's I don't like predictable. Like I don't like that's one of the problems I have with Ring of Honor is like just because the match is long doesn't mean it's good.
Right, right. It doesn't have to be long. I mean, it's just can you tell the story in the
Yeah.
match in the time frame you have?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I think we dropped out maybe a little bit before that of watching NXT because I don't think the wife really knew much about Adam Cole when he popped over to the main roster and stuff. So I think we stopped watching NXT regularly a little bit before that even.
Yeah. I think once it went to 2 hours like I was kind of
Yeah,
a little done
like
with it.
it when it was on the network in the early days, it was perfect. And honestly, in my opinion, even without doing the old content, it made having the network worthwhile. Like that's how much we were enjoying it.
Yeah, and it was punchy, it was short, like you were seeing people
Hmm.
like train, it didn't take itself too seriously. The matches could be like, yeah,
Yeah, but
but
you were entertained and you didn't feel like, oh, geez, they're talking minutes. Like, when are they going to wrap up? Is someone going
yeah.
to just, just
And
what is
they
going on?
they usually gave you enough like, oh, okay, well I want to watch next week to see what happens. Like
Yep,
it wasn't like
yep.
super. It was kind of like old school in a way that they kind of. I think that was when Ryan Ward and Dusty were doing it though. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, those were definitely like it was must watch for a while.
yeah. And as far as like how I keep up now is my brother still has the network, so anytime there's a pay-per-view, we always watch the pay-per-views. We never watch Raw or SmackDown anymore, but I'll come over and I'll be like, okay, Brett, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Or there'll be someone new that I don't recognize. I'm like, what's the story with them? Because I don't watch NXT anymore either. So if they started there, I have no idea who they are,
Yeah.
or what the storyline is. So I keep up that way, um, a little bit. And fun fact about my brother, whose name is Brett, he is actually, it's not spelled the same, but he is named after Bret the Hitman Hart. Because
Okay.
back around the time when Mom got pregnant and stuff, we were talking about names, and I was a big Bret Hart fan at that point. I'm like, Bret the Hitman. And so that's how my brother got his name. I have a sister after me, but then the next brother after that, I was like, Bret the Hitman. And so that kind of stuck. So that's how he got his name. Um, Poor guy, but
That's
uh,
you could have done worse. Like it's like how'd you get the name Coco? Well, my brother was a really big Coco Ware fan.
uh,
Like why are you named
no.
Rhino?
Oh, jeez. Gore. No. Oh,
So
but
so then I guess that leads into so how did you get into like the tabletop wrestling sphere? Because I'm gonna imagine you somehow stumbled upon the Phil Singer system.
yes, it was. I don't know anyone that played it. Um, the only reason I knew it existed was going back to when I was a kid. My uncle and I think my older brothers would buy Pro Wrestling Illustrated sometimes, and so I don't vividly remember. I think there was a Bishop Hell ad for
Okay.
it in
I was about
there.
to ask if it was the Spike one about the babysitter.
I think it was Bishop Hell,
Okay.
um,
That's the one
because
that's the one I
I
think everyone remembers.
yeah. So I vaguely remember that my older brother was a pretty good. He could draw really well, and so I remember him taking that picture and kind of drawing his own character based off of it for an art project, or I don't even remember. Like I couldn't even tell you why he drew a character, but I vaguely remember him drawing someone, and so that's where I remember it from. And so it got to where I was more interested. I was watching wrestling on my own. I was more interested. I'm like, I know this is out there. Like, I know it, or is it still out there? I'm like, I remember seeing it. Like, is it still out there? And then I found that it was, and I think that was around the time um, of New Beginnings, 2119,
Okay.
is when I kind of jumped in on it
Okay, so
because
you're a
I
little
think I
after
was
me.
yeah, so I lurked, I think, for a while, and then it kind of came up, there's all these sets. Where do I start? And I bought their very first set, and I bought New Beginnings. And so that's kind of where I toyed around with it. Um, and so I don't remember doing a very much with the New Beginnings Fed. I know I did some. Um, and then I played around with the older stuff as well. But it really wasn't until um, the ACE stuff
Oh
that really
yeah.
drew me in, and I became a hardcore at that point.
Oh,
Like I would toy.
Ace was good
Oh, I,
times.
I loved it. I loved it, and I think that was like at that time I was into like the darker stuff. It was the zombies and all
Like
this. Like it was a sci-fi horror wrestling
And
federation. Like
I mean,
I don't even know if you could call it wrestling.
it was hardcore too, because like Flatliner just straight up died, and his like corpse was like being powered by like the suit by
Yes.
the end of it. And like they would just straight up kill people and they'd come back as zombies. Like, no, that was I'm so sad that only lasted for a while. I'm kind of glad the CWF exists now, like the Future Shock stuff, to kind of get that world back a bit. But like, man, like just like the creative risks that Chris took with that were so good.
Yes. Yes, and I liked it, and that's what drew me more towards it. So I think what I was struggling with the Phil Singer games is, one, I like the story overall. Don't get me wrong. I love what he's done. The story of the universe is. I liked the original sets, the early ones, because it gave me that old school wrestling feel. But
Mm-hmm.
then I had the ACE that gave me this different feel. And sometimes I felt like when looking at the newer stuff is like sometimes, and that's kind of like with some of the characters dying in the ACE. It's like sometimes those old characters need to go away. Like it's been so long now. Like give me someone new, give me someone different to play with. If I want to play with the old character, I can grab the old card and bring them into my Fed. You know,
Yeah.
that's I think why ACE drew me in so much is it was completely different. It wasn't the old school Fed that I liked. It was a tangent from the other stuff, which I liked, but it was just so far removed from it. Like I said, it was more sci-fi horror than it
Yeah.
was wrestling. Like it's hard to say it's a wrestling Fed with all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
Um, you know that is the era that drew me in was the ACE stuff. That's when I dove headfirst into that because I didn't get into that I think until the 2021
Yeah.
2021
That would have been the
is maybe
last year. I think it lasted from
or
21
maybe
19 to 21 21 is what I think. Because then he did when they did.
no, it made it to 23. All Century Entertainment I think was 2023
Yeah, I don't
or
remember if he.
21-23.
I don't remember if he took a year off though. That's maybe it was 21-20 to 21-23 then.
There was something like that I think, but it was the first. I think maybe it was 2020 then, or 21-20 that I
Okay.
jumped in on because I remember pre-ordering the other sets, being stoked for those because I was pretty current, like waiting on the like
Yeah.
that is the only time I've ever been ahead on a tabletop wrestling set with the releases was that time.
Yeah. That
Um,
because I loved Ace, but I think honestly like with the GWF and like Tom's stuff, having those side promotions to contrast his writing with different flavors really accentuates like what he does well.
yes, and I like that, and I haven't gotten to the invasion. I'm not I haven't been that far, but I was interested in it. But I did like when they did the POW stuff for a while. Was that Mark
Yeah,
that did
Mark
the
Ashby.
MMA?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that came out of the CPC, which I love that because
Yep.
that was a much more down to earth promotion.
Hmm.
Because I
Yep.
think what why I like the CPC so much is it was a great counterbalance to Tom, and it made like the grandiose stuff that like Tom likes to do
Hmm.
much bigger because you had this more like grounded promotion. But so if you're watching this, you don't know what it is. So Champions of the Galaxy has existed from like the late '80s, but so what's the novelty about it? Well, is how well supported it is. But so each new edition is like a new edition, like a new year of like this promotion called the GWF. So what happens is, so a new set comes out, new wrestlers come in, but where the real novelty is, and which blew my mind and still does, that I'm surprised it's never been like a bigger deal, is wrestlers might get older and retire. So like you might have like, so there was a guy in the early sets called Pulsar. When Pulsar started, Pulsar sucked. He was pretty much like a jobber to the stars. But then you go up a couple years and he grows up and he gets better and he works with like this other guy. And then his new card, he's like an upper mid carder. And then he does that for a while. And then there's a point where he gets. Did he get blinded by fire?
Oh,
So there's a
Oh,
point where
geez.
he suffers an eye injury, and I think it's because of fire. So then he gets this card that's like a little more rough and tumble, but that card also like would try to blind people. And there's heel turns, and guys like retire and become managers. Like it's honestly like, if you get into it, it's honestly amazing like what he managed to do for so long, like running like a running world. And it's even to the point now where people talk about sets like 20 years ago like they talk about old wrestling. Like that's how well
Yes.
done it was.
Yes. Yes, they certainly do. And that is, I mean, that, going back to when I first found out that it still existed, it was kind of interesting. And that's where, and it can be a little, I find it a little overwhelming that, what was the first set? 2087?
Yep, and they're this year
2087.
is
And then I
2140 is what's coming out.
21, 30, 40. Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's what's coming
Yeah.
out this
So
year.
that's where I remember when I got my first two sets, I got to 2087 and I got to 2119. And I'm like, and I'm towards like, okay, I could start at 2119 and move forward. But God, there's a lot of cool stuff about in these older sets. And I'd like to do that as well. And so it became a juggling act. And I think that's also the other reason where like the CPC and stuff, I would enjoy that a little bit more because it's more of, okay, yes, it's an offshoot and these characters exist there, but this is the beginning of this story. So that's where, from a newcomer perspective, I would say it's maybe a little bit overwhelming. Where do I start? Um,
I think the
how do I get caught
benefit
up to the stories? That's
I think the benefit now is you have 3 starting points. And I think if someone said, "Where do I start?" It's like, "Well, do you want a more old school experience or do you want a modern experience?" Because so if you said like, "Well, I want a modern experience," like it's like, "Okay, just get when the color card started." You're
yep,
only 15 years
yep.
behind. It's modern. It has a lot of flavors of modern wrestling. It's like, well, if you want old school, go to 2087 and just go crazy. Like that's more old school.
Yeah, and I like the new beginnings, but I would say I would either start with the really old or the 21, 25. I think is the year the color cards.
Yeah. Or
That's
I would consider now, because they just released the set. Like I would consider just going early classics and picking up with that, because that's a very limited roster. I think there's 27, 28 guys because they added a couple. This is the very first year it existed. The first set is like the first 2 years, and it's less glitz and glamour, and there's no backstory, so you can get in on the ground floor. And I think by the time you got to the modern sets, you'd be like 13 years in, and you could have
yeah.
either moved on or not. But like I think there's some merit to starting in the early classics.
Well, and I would agree with that because I started doing an early classics fed when I don't even remember who did it now or who
Mike
started it, but
Molesky.
the Lost Found Champions or Lost Found Champions of the Lost.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't.
what was that called? Because I did a video for him
Oh, Kevin
on
Butcher
YouTube.
just mentioned that today because we were. Oh, he just. It's the.
Lost Found Stars of the Classic Era.
Yes, 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 yes. That's
Lost
it.
Found Stars of the Classic Era. I think
Yeah.
I might have to dig out some cards somewhere. And so that was really cool because you could. I was using those. God, I think. Oh, geez. I think if I remember correctly, I was doing the early classic stuff from like a grandpa talking to his kid about this old time wrestling that he used to watch, and it was incorporating the early classic sets with these Lost Found Champions, and it was there wasn't necessary there I might have had a few overarching stories, but it's more of, oh, there was this great battle or something like that. And that's what I remember fun about that era is like, oh, these are these people. And it was just kind of a blast playing with like I said, there's something to be said about playing with the older style.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. I think it's just I'm getting older and it's nostalgic. That's what it is.
I think there's a simplicity to like those two, because the characters are much more. I wouldn't say bland. They're much more like toned down and like realistic.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
there is something about, I guess, like the naivety of it, because it's much more old style, and having like, you have Omega, who is like the ace of the promotion, and he is like this paragon of like good, and like sportsmanship and stuff. Which really, if you want to talk about the real hero of like the GWF, like the entire history, it's Lord Nexus. But that's a
Yes.
discussion for another time. But like Omega is like he is like the quintessential, like he is like the Bruno San Martino of the early years.
Yeah. Yeah. He's someone you could put the belt on and be confident that he is going to carry you.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, that's
and
solid.
there's something cool about having that, like just that icon that early on. And you get moments of that later with like guys like Chaos and some of those guys, but I would say like no one ever really like sticks out quite like the early Omega card does. So then that would take us to the other one that we're both involved in. So that would be GoFightPow. So GoFightPow is, I would not say it's a wrestling game. It's kind of,
it's wrestling adjacent. I mean, you could almost say it's almost more MMA.
He said
Fighter.
He started it kind of more as an MMA Street Fighter thing, but he said the more it's embraced the wrestling side of it, the more people have like attached to it.
And
I would say,
and I could see that.
I would say it's much more. If you look at how people promote, you kind of get a gamut of, you have some people that treat it like MMA, some people treat it like a fighting thing. I've honestly slipped more and more into wrestling as it's gone on. Just especially for YouTube, it's much easier to present it like a wrestling promotion.
Well, and I like how you run your glitter. Like, I don't know if you... I got a suspicion you don't keep win-loss records on glitter. No. Yeah, I didn't get... I got that feeling that you didn't, but I think that's why I like it a lot, because I'll watch it, and it's like, oh, this happened, and then, my wife's character just gets angry and beats someone up at the end. Yeah. It's more organic to what you're feeling is going on. And I think that comes across too when I'm watching it a little bit more.
There are others I do, like my Phil Singer stuff. I do keep win-loss records, but sometimes, but that's because I like that. But that doesn't necessarily play into my booking. Like I try to keep, an idea of like if they've done well or not to keep like title shots straight. But like I don't keep, because I kind of my idea for glitter is like what Worldwide was like back in the day. Like, I kind of wanted to be like, oh, so-and-so might show up this week. Or, oh, you don't know who's going to show up. Or, it's just to be fun and, like, angles in there. Like, my Jim Crockett promotions, I'm much more stringent about having, like, a weekly angle and building, like, from here to here. But, like, for me, glitter's kind of like I'm just going to throw a couple matches on. And, like, the thing with Mrs. Beefy and Fiona, I decided to do that. And then I had them have a rematch. And then I was like, oh, well, Sundog Fifi will be a fun little throw in there. So then I had Fiona and Sundog Fifi this week. And then, so they attack her again afterwards. And then I have Chloe Cage and Paige Rage come out to save her because previously not on the programming. But so when I introduced Fiona, they were feuding with like Snow Fight, Action, and Volcano, and they were talking about how their friend was going to save them, and they're taunting him and stuff, and saying like, "Oh, it's your imaginary friend," and then this giant hippopotamus comes out and pretty much cleans up on them. So that's kind of where that came from. But so then next week is going to be a trios match, just because that's how I've built it through there, but that's really just more week to week booking. Like I don't have any grand plan for that. It's just I just kind of go with the flow on that.
But I think it works. That's why I think I enjoy it. Is like for me the viewer, I don't have to worry about all the history going on. Like it's very it's almost like I was watching an old wrestling show. Or I go to an indie promotion. I go there, I watch, I have a good time. It's fun. I know the end of the story? Maybe not, but I know that I'm enjoying what I'm watching at that moment, and I'll be happy when I'm done.
That's kind of
what I like about how you run your glitter. I really like that.
That's kind of like my intention of it, is for that to be like episodic. Like some of my other ones, like I said, like my Jim Crockett promotions, which is just Legends of Wrestling, that's that has like some promos and stuff to build to house shows, but that's like an old school style. So like, you know, Wahoo McDaniel has the belt and he's gonna talk things up because he wants to get you in that building at, you know, Greensboro in 2 weeks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
And
so
I think that's
oh,
so
but so I think so I still play both. I think you play more Go Fight Pow now though.
yes. The main draw for Go Fight Pow for me over Phil Singer games, and it's not that I don't like Phil Singer games. I love Phil Singer games. I still like thumbing through the cards and looking at be like, God, like, you know, the Bishop Hell color card in 2021-25. I'm like, God, I love that art. I love
Yeah.
the art. I love the characters. I love the story. What kills me as I'm getting older is my lack of time. And so my wife played some Champions of the Galaxy with me, and she didn't hate it, but it was a lot. Like I had a card set up, and I like I talked with Eric, and he was Avarice. He played Phil Singer games with us as well, and he was big in ACE with me. And he was Avarice on the boards, and I didn't jump in on Go Fight Pow immediately. I think it wasn't the Champions of Time, was it? Kickstarter. No, I think I was playing a little bit before the Champions of Time Kickstarter.
I
I
think
don't, but I wasn't in on the ground floor of the first Kickstarter on it because it took a while for me to get everything.
so I was friends with Dustin, and I didn't do the first Kickstarter, but he messaged me one day. He's like, "Hey, I want you to try this game and send it to you." So he sent me the first edition, and I played it, and I was like, "Oh, this is fun." So I got like the Christmas skies. I don't remember what they were called, and I got the
Oh,
first frame.
yeah, Santa Claus and Comet.
Yeah, and
That was
I
in
think
the Celsius and Fahrenheit.
yeah, I think Alexander might have been in there too.
Yes, I think so.
Maybe. No, they might have been. That's been a while. So
Oh,
I got
it all blends now.
yeah. So I got those early. So you and then I think I did the glitter was the first Kickstarter I did.
Yeah, see, I would have been probably on whatever was next after that, I
Champions of
think.
Time.
Maybe Champions of Time is where I started, and I just bought all the old. Maybe that is where I started then, but I didn't start playing the Champions. I went to the old stuff, kind of like I did with Champions of the Galaxy, and so I jumped kind of all in on that. And so what was kind of refreshing to play Go Fight Pow was what would usually take me the time to play a Champions of the Galaxy tag team match, I could do an entire card or maybe two of Go Fight Pow.
Yeah.
And when playing with when playing with my wife, she enjoyed it a lot more too, because you know it's not a very involved game. It doesn't take much. You just need two dice, you know, cards. You can do, you know, you can have your hey, this is our card for the night, or you could just play some things randomly. But that's what was nice for us because if we'd have a little bit of time, we might drink a beer, eat some snacks, have something on in the background, NXT or something, whatever it is, roll out some cards, and then we move on.
And,
While
and there's always
for
that
me,
I would say the big difference too is Go Fight Pal. There's always an element of danger because the match can end at any
yes,
time. And with Phil Singer, I would say leans heavier into simulation. So like the matches can be
yes,
exciting, but like sometimes with Phil Singer, um,
you're kind of the characters are kind of on autopilot. Like
mhm,
even and and it I will say that is in my opinion a good thing and a bad thing with that system is it is if you're into simulation it is perfect. That is great for that. But where I get is like there's that character, so like in ACE when they got out of the zombie stuff and went more of a flashy show
mhm,
stuff, there was a character Scud, the human missile, that I just really liked. And he was going against the Amazing Man, and the fight was awesome. Like, it was like he was a lower tier guy, but did well in this match. And I tried pushing him, but you just, those guys aren't going to get to that point. Like, it's really hard. I mean, it can happen, and it does happen in some of the feds, but like the way their stats are made is it's really hard to push those characters that you're like, God, I really like this
Yeah.
guy. I really want him to be more than a mid carder or low, or a jobber. Like that. That is the hard thing with that, because there are characters in there that I'm like, God, I like these guys and I want to push them, but you can't get the
Yeah.
title on them, you know.
But
But
that's
yeah, with
also,
Go Fight Pow, is
it
it could
embraces
happen
the
anytime,
random.
anywhere, which is good. But if you want to have like a long history of someone that holds the belt forever, it's probably not going to happen in Go Fight Pow.
Well, and I think we're so I agree with you. There's the good and the bad of that, especially if you fall in love with someone. But like, I think that's why Phil Singer has lasted though, is because so like if you're doing Legends, like other tabletop games, not Go Fight Pal. Go Fight Pal, I think shines as kind of like the chaos that it is. But like
Hmm.
where other systems kind of falter versus I think Phil Singer is like, so if you're playing Legends, like Harley Race is going to perform about like Harley Race. He's going to have some variants, but if you do Harley Race for Brad Armstrong, Harley Race is probably going to win 7 or 8 times. Whereas in another system, like you get this crazy stuff where like, you know, the guys that should be the top of your promotion lose all the time. And like, I think, you want a guy that's a main eventer to be a main eventer.
Yep. Yep.
And that,
And I agree with you on that with Champion of the Galaxy. Like, it's a very solid system
yeah.
for that.
And
Like,
like that can be, so I think where that can be a negative though. So like you see someone and Go Fight Pal. Like let's say, I have a couple back here. Like let's say like you like, I don't know, Tiki Boom, or you like Space Cowboy.
mhm.
If you work with them, they might have some bad luck, but if you keep putting them in there, they have a fight, they have a puncher's chance. Like the
Yep.
dice are going to dictate a lot. But like if you like a guy, he might not win the belt, but you can possibly get them there.
Yeah, and do you feel like the more modern Go Fight Pow has more variance than the older sets?
I,
Like, I mean, there's still always that hint of danger, like you said, but I feel like some of them are a little bit better prepped, maybe. And I think that's maybe
he's
with the more of the multiple pops and stuff.
I think he's figured out how to I think he's figured out how to weight things a little more. Like you still get a lot of chaos. Like I think when I do
Yes.
stuff on stream, like I still think Ricky Stallion is like my most successful champion, and he's got like 6 or 7 defenses. And I still have like I do keep title histories, but I don't keep win loss records. So like
Uh-huh.
there's long stretches in some of mine with like 0 defenses. Like and I'll get like long stretches of that. But he has figured out like, oh, how to make a jobber.
Hmm.
Because that was the
Yep.
first thing I always wanted hit from him.
To have at least one or two of those
And I think
around. But yeah, for the most part, it's still chaotic, like you said. Like, he could win.
and
It's not as likely, but he could.
yeah, and I think he's figured out like he's had more experience with the mechanics. I think it's kind of like when you look at like early Phil Singer stuff. Like he's
Mhm.
learned the system a little bit. I think he's learned like, okay, like if they have this number, or if these numbers interact a certain way, like um, this has this probability. Like I need like so many people should have a 3 is this, and I think he's figured out like
Yep.
interaction things to make people a little bit better, like throwing a guy out there
Yep.
that maybe has like a pop that is a lot of finisher numbers. That guy probably has a
Hmm.
slightly better chance of doing better. um yeah, things like that, because like I did like when I did the free agents, I did like Kali, who is like the jobber. He's the fat guy on the like rascal scooter. So he's actually my inspiration for him was actually King Hippo from Punch Out. So that's why his pop. That's why his pop is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Because the idea was if you knock him over, he can't get back up. That was like the whole like.
Yep.
That was the whole idea behind him, and then it kind of just got sillier because I'm like, well, I don't want him to actually do anything like effective or like legitimate. So that's like where, everything I think he does is like a cheat move. But that's kind of like that was kind of my like inspiration for that one. And then
Yep.
Sundog Fifi I did for the last set, and that was just because like I want a girl Sundog.
Yeah, yeah. And so we did. I did Mr. Beefy just to finally put him out there in his sphere, and I think I built him on basically the old mechanics. I don't think I gave anything too new.
No, the first one's
I
pretty.
always joke it's like he is a jobber. Like I don't know. Like anytime, like I'll take him to the feds when we do something. Like I'm gonna have the worst record ever or something.
I think he did okay.
But
He did like okay for me, but he was like he did okay for me. And then I think the first baby beef card, I don't think I didn't use it a ton, but I could never quite wrap my head around that one. And I don't remember why now because I haven't used that one in a while.
I think initially the goal was because the baby had made this android body, you had to win the pop twice.
Yeah, it was in
or something like that. It was something like that.
It was in a body like Krang from Ninja
Yes,
Turtles,
that was the idea behind him is to put him, because I think the story for Mr. Beefy, if I remember correctly, is like he leapt through time, kind of had that uh, quantum leap. So that's his finisher. So he had the Swiss cheese brain. So he's like this crazy scientist person that leapt through time, and then his baby comes from another time wanting to beat him up. And then now he's good with the Beefy 3, and now that we got the Mrs. Beefy in there, but she also so yeah, I helped her make the baby beef, and then she made Tarian. Was her character that she made.
Is
initially.
is that like the war, like kind of the more Celtic warrior?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to put her. I haven't used her in glitter in a while. I need to put her into a show.
Yeah. So I always, because now that I'm playing my free fight agents, which I need to do some more videos on that. I've been slacking. But I thought it might be funny, and that might be why my kid comes and it wants to hurt me, is that maybe I do something stupid with Tarian or something, and then the baby comes over and starts walloping me for being an idiot. I don't know. I can do whatever I want with it, and that's why I like. Actually, that's why I like with both of those game systems is with finger games it's a little bit more semi, but really if you want to tell whatever story you want and focus on whoever you want, you could.
Yeah.
Same way with GoFightPow. I think I'm a little bit on GoFightPow right now. I'm a little bit more heavy on win-loss records, and I think after I keep watching your glitter, I think I'm a little bit more interested in getting away from that, because sometimes, and I've had this problem with any tabletop game or anything like that, simulation type game, is that I don't want it to feel like work.
Yeah.
Like if I got this table and I'm keeping, here's the win-loss. Oh, I entered that. Oh, I'm putting it on my website. Oh, it's like, I don't want it to be work. Like, that's not what it is. When it's work, I start taking a step back from it for a while.
Yeah, so I don't even write the stuff I do videos on down. Like, because I'm just like, well, if I need to know what happened, I can just go look up the video.
Go back to the video.
Yeah, because that was kind of the point. So like those, I do have a title history with like title defenses and times, and there is like those do exist in like a time. Like there is like time that progresses, but like I just figured that out after the fact if a title changes based on like the last title change. But yeah, so those some of the ones I do like for Phil Singer, I do write down. That's very minimal though, because my idea for that was I'm going to do this on YouTube because it's going to help me play more, because there's going to be people watching that are going to want to see it, but then I don't have to write it down, play it out, then post it on message board somewhere. Like I can just play it on a video, and then there's less effort put in. Like not less effort because I'm still playing, but it's like I can commentate, like it can be fun, but then like I don't necessarily need to do all the bookkeeping because it's there in video. It's
like because otherwise it's like you're doing it twice, which is why I do like when I do videos, because I don't think about, like, because I want to have, like, that Phil Singer game sim. I want to have that history, but it's kind of nice not having to do the writing. The other, like the Universal Fighting Alliance Fed I do, that's with my wife. So usually if she's not playing, I'm not touching it. And so what we do with that is we are now on, so we started with the original IFC. We split glitter off, and so we have a glitter fed. But I think we're now on international incident, so we are really early on. But we draft characters, so it's like this is her team, this is my team. I still do win loss, but I still do what kind of feels right, and we'll play characters like we don't draft everyone in the league, like someone that isn't my character against one of her characters, and and that is fun for me to have like the interaction with her because then she gets competitive and it's like and she still has the majority of the champions. Like I think I need to look through, but I think the only champion I got is Ricky Stallion for the Heritage, but that's like talking about long title histories. Honest Abe is still our champ. Like he hasn't lost it. I can't get it off of. I can't get it away from her. But so it can happen. But yeah, no, that's kind of a different type of booking where I'm trying to be like, okay, it's me versus her, and she knows that sometimes like, I think we got this storyline going on, but it's almost it's really more of it's you versus me, and we're just going to have fun with it.
When do you decide to bring a new set in with that setup? Do you have like do you just have like a set time? You're like, we need some new blood, so let's get the new set in there. Like, do you?
I think I used to try and keep it with like a bi-weekly show. I think I want to get away from that though. I because there are so many cards now, so many characters, and I'll roll out random. Like I won't necessarily do a fed, but like when I get to Fight Pass cards, I usually always roll out a couple cards. I'll grab some cards randomly and do it just for fun. But yeah, I don't want to tie myself down as much as I have been. So that's kind of one of the things where I've kind of taken a break from it for a little bit. I haven't posted a GoFightPow video in quite a long time because I'm trying to figure out how I want to do it. And I think I'm just going to, because with my Free Fighters Alliance, the idea was I'm starting with the free agents first pack, and I'm going to get up to the most recent one. But I think I need to just cut it back to, if I only have 10 or 8 cards with this group of guys, just move on. And if I haven't used this one character, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I need to get over that. Like if it didn't appeal for me enough to do that, it's not that it's necessarily a bad character, or maybe I can pull that character out at a later date or something. That's where, and I think that's part of the Phil Singer games aspect that I haven't let go, is I have all of these guys that I want to sim in there. But really it's like, no, there's so much cool stuff in GoFightPow that I'm like, like I if I don't use Mr. Beefy and my Free Fighters Alliance, I'm not missing out on anything because I got other stuff to also do. It doesn't keep me from playing with them in the future.
That paralyzed I think that paralyzed me for a good 2 or 3 years, because I didn't play much for 2 or 3 years, but I was kind of paralyzed when it went to lost sectors, because I was trying to like do all of the sectors, and then I felt bad if I wasn't using people, because there's a lot of characters. There's some characters I absolutely love that I've never used before, just because there's hundreds now. And so then when I started doing the YouTube channel, I actually started making progress, because I was like, well, like I'm gonna do glitter, I'm gonna do my Mid Atlantis, and then I'll just figure the rest out. And so it's like, if I want to do a Fire Island, I'll do a Fire Island. I've done some like Tim Rocket promotions, but like some of the other ones, like the Zone, or like the North Forest, like I like, and I think about them, and I don't worry about the timeline. I'll just go backwards or whatever. But it's like, if I feel like getting to Deep South, I mean, I even wrote Deep South, and I haven't played Deep South in a while. But it's just like, I'll get to them. Like, because I was thinking about rolling some North Forest. I'm just like, if I just decide I want to do North Forest for like a couple months on the channel, I'll just do it. Like, so I just started worrying less about it. It's like, like Boston Terror. Like, I like that character, but I've never used him. And I used to stress about how I was going to use him. I'm just like, like if I figure out how to like sneak him in somewhere, like I will. But like, I'm not going to stress about it, because like when I was stressing about it, I wasn't playing.
Well, and that's kind of where and I've done it with GoFightPow. I've done it with Champions of the Galaxy. I mean, I think I had a block in ACE at one point, but then I got in. I think it was the transition to All Central Entertainment. I'm like, okay, what direction do I go? And I'm like, because it's less sci-fi horror. And I'm like, you know what? I got these characters, and Witch Doctor was there. How about I just throw him in there, and then I can kind of incorporate my zombie stuff while trying to keep it a normal fed. That's where when Lost Sectors came out, I was looking at all of it. I'm like, oh, this is all really cool. And I had a similar thing. I'm like, God, how am I going to do all these different feds? Like that stressed me out. But yeah, I need to get past that. And I need to look at it almost like when I was doing my early classics and Champions of the Galaxy is I don't have to have a year-long fed. I can just, this is maybe this month in this time that this happened and move on and do something else and just because I do like playing it. I like playing both of them. But yeah, that's my. It's like I don't want to stop playing. So that is one of the hard things with booking, and it's just sometimes you gotta let it go, and that's why I like watching your. Going back to glitter, I like watching your glitter. Is I'm like I need to do that more and just let it go. If it feels right, that's what we'll go with. And the fed with me and my wife is a little bit different. That's that's not and that's not straight win loss either.
Yeah.
That's a we're doing this together serious. I mean, she has most of the champions, so it's not serious right now. If I get all the champions, then it'll be serious. But yeah, that's I want to have fun with it, and as the little guy gets older, I want to not so focus on the mechanics. Like, hey, grab some guys you like, let's roll some stuff, let's get a champion, do stuff like that. So he's not quite ready. He's not quite there.
Yeah, that's kind of what where I kind of started playing again was just it turned into I'm just gonna forge ahead. The timeline doesn't matter. Like I can make it make sense behind there. Like I don't need to do everything sequentially. Like I'm gonna play and I'll figure it out. That's kind of like where my change. I just got to, and I mean I was paralyzed for a long time. Like I would talk to both Erics about it. And I just be like I'm trying to figure this out, and I'd find like a direction for a couple of weeks and play like a couple months out, and
yep,
it just wouldn't work. Like I'd burn out, and then this has worked well, but like YouTube like helps me kind of stay accountable. Like I haven't done Mid Atlantis for a while, but I haven't stressed about it. Like I'm gonna get back to it, but it just turned into like I'll just I like doing my Mid Atlantis. Like I just haven't quite had the time to do Tim Rocket because I want to do eventually. I would love to do like a Mid Atlantis versus Tim Rocket Promotion Wars thing. I just have not ever had a way to figure that out. I don't want to do it in a single video, but like so like a lot of like glitter especially is just like I'm just gonna pick some matches out, and if there gets to be a rivalry or whatever, I'll go with it. Like I am with the Fiona versus Mrs. Beefy thing, but then it's just like, my belts and stuff, and I'll keep a mix of people that I know are on the videos frequently to like have some sense of continuity, but like, or even in like Mid Atlantis or my Phil Singer, which has helped me a lot, is like going territory style, which is just like, if I don't feel like using them anymore, they went somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah. Speaking of that, the CWF, are you playing any of that?
Yeah,
from Phil Singer. Because Dustin, I think, was one that's like, you need to try this out. Like, you will like this, and I'm like, I'm like,
yeah. So so it's interesting. So I've done most of the first year. It's just, unfortunately, it's finding the time to play with it. So it's a lot of the future shock guys. So it's like alternate versions of guys. So there's like Chaos Supreme, which is like a different version of Chaos, and it's a slightly different timeline. So they come in with like Magnus Colby, and then the CWF's there. So then you have like Lance Atlas. But what I think is cool is like, so US Mail is there. No, it's Adam Blast. Sorry, he's Adam Blast now, and he comes out of retirement. But what's awesome about his card is he has like an antiquated offense. So he has like an old school, like, something you'd see out of like the 2090s kind of offense. So he like comes out of retirement. Then you have like, you have this guy, Mr. Centra, that's kind of like a Rob Van Dam kind of guy. But then you have like Splatter and Mayhem, like new versions of them. You have the imposter Star Warrior there is like Star Slayer, and it's like a really interesting promotion, and like it's a really good like kind of like blood and guts promotion. And then as the sets progress, like Aegis pops in and Murdoch, so you get like a lot of those characters back, but it's its
Mm-hmm.
own like flavor, and it's if and Cronus has that going for it. If you like Earth 2 DC stuff, you'll like it because
Okay. So see,
they're kind of like, hey, this is like not the Atom Blast, but he's like 80% there, just with a different like outcome to life.
yeah, Dustin pointed me towards that one. So that's the one where I'm like, if I go back, I'm either going to go to my 28. I think I'm in 2088 now. 2088, go old, or I want to do something like that. That's more of an offshoot.
Yeah, and
So.
that one benefits from its its own deal, and it's an alternate
Mhm.
timeline, so it doesn't like mix into anything. Like those characters were in the GWF for a couple of years, but it really doesn't matter. And you have like that strong heel stable that kind of dictates everything. You have like guys like Evolution, which is disaster, just pre cleansing. It's really
Mhm.
interesting. I really enjoy it, and it's a smaller promotion. Then the other thing you could think about is they've just re-released early classics in color.
Um, I'll have to look at that. I do. I think I have. I don't have the blue cards. I might have the PDFs and printed my own. I can't remember what I have of them.
So the first set of
But
that is 2074 to 2075.
74.
Yeah, so that's a 24 card set, and then Promoter Prime has an extra three. So they added a couple of new characters, but they're mostly like it's kind of like early UFC, like they're guys that kind of suck and like were there, but they really like are kind of just like footnotes. Like one of them's kind of okay, but like they're not going to win much, but they kind of balance the roster out, and there's a nice element. I really like them because it's kind of like, oh hey, here's this guy that was in on the ground floor, but he's going to wash out in 2 years because he's not very good. Like I
Yeah.
like that element. Like I think there might be people that would be upset about having like so many sucky characters, but I honestly with early classics, if they did the roster and like 30 of them like were mediocre to crap, I would love it. Just because like I've been watching some early UFC, and it really reminds me of that, of like those they're trying to figure it out, but like, oh,
Yes.
this guy's gonna go one, and this guy on the show is gonna go 1 and 3 and like just disappear. Like I like that element that they added with some of the new guys.
Yes, and I remember because I listened to that episode of you all doing it, and I've watched UFC, and I like watching UFC. But yeah, that older stuff, it really it wasn't mixed martial arts in the sense that I'm going to learn a bunch of different styles so I'm well rounded. It was more of, hey, I only do this, you only do that, and
Yeah.
like you're not going to go anywhere long. Like it makes maybe an interesting fight for the night, maybe, but otherwise, yeah. Like I know what you're
I
saying,
think we
and
killed
that's
poor
what.
Art Jimerson because like we did that show, and Art Jimerson died like 2 days later. I'm like, oops, like sorry.
Ugh,
Yeah, but
that's just
it's kind of
bad
like that. But no,
coincidence.
I think CWF is I think you would like that, especially
Okay,
if you liked Ace. Like it doesn't have the horror elements, but it's
right.
like an interesting promotion, and it's Mike Molesky writing it, and he does a really good job. It's very much it's very steeped in like interpersonal rivalries.
And I think I would like that.
Oh, and Doomsayer's there. Doomsayer is a wrestler's
Okay.
there. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so uh, I think you would like that. Like I said, like GoFightPow has worked better for me. Was just like being like I'm gonna forge ahead. Not everyone gets used. It's okay. Like these are not all of them. This is like my Fire Island pile. It's part of it at least.
Yeah, this is my active pile. This is the glitter, the Wife League, and my free agents, right? And one little box. That's
I
I do
have.
have them separated.
You can kind of see it there. This is like a big box of all of them. And then you can't see them. There's like my pile is Mid Atlantis. My oh, that's my. There's a little pile of my two play card for Fire Island, and
Yep.
then yeah, I just go through like for glitter. I honestly like it's gonna sound not sexy, but I have my okay. Well, this is like I booked that, so I'm gonna get that. But then I just kind of go through my cards, and I'm just like, well, what looks interesting if I use them in a while? Like, oh, like they lost. Like let's get them in a match with someone that just lost. Like that's kind of like my philosophy with glitter and my GWF and stuff. Like that's a little more organized.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a style to like my GWF, which I don't have on the channel yet, and I don't know if I ever will. But so that's very much a this is a weekly TV show. There's 6 matches. I book in this style. There is one title match per month, and then a pay-per-view every quarter. And then my style can kind of change on that. Like that one's much more of a I would say there's like an AEW Impact flavor of I try to keep it really tightly booked, personal issues, um, depending on the angle. Like it's pretty blood and guts right now, but that one's a much more stringent. Like this is where I'm going. Like when I get to the last quarter of the year, I'm going to read the next booklet because then I'm going to start like molding my booking to make sense with what's coming. Like that one's much more that is a much stricter like I have a purpose, things need to go a certain way, like I
Mm-hmm.
am booking that like I would a real promotion. And then a lot of my like some of my legend stuff is much more of like a territory thing, but I'm looser with that because it's just like um because especially with territory, if like a guy comes in and he does a couple matches, I'm just like, you know what, I'm not feeling this. Like, go away. Like I'm,
Yep.
and like with the GWF, it's like, no, okay, this guy's on the roster. Because like my idea for the GWF is essentially, I don't care how crappy you are, you're going to get at least like a 2 week angle at some point in the year of a calendar year. So like the G and the like my goal is every guy gets about 22 to 26 like my general goal with that. And then like but like other stuff like I said territory and stuff, it's like if I bring in like the new age outlaws, I'm just not feeling it. It's like okay, like I'll have them, I'll finish them up in some match and then they I'll just send them on their way. So like
Yep.
I don't sweat it as much, and especially GoFightPow's the same way. So like it's like my Mid Atlantis was it's just kind of actually the reason I stopped. I kind of got myself in there because kind of like I need to freshen the roster up. So is you could if you watch that you could see people kind of leaving and some new faces coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and but that was still kind of loose, but it was a conscientious decision of I need some new faces. And then sometimes people would comment and want to see someone, and if I liked, if it was a good match, I might, like, 'cause I think that's how Kamala came in. Someone was like, hey, can you do Kamala match? And I'm like, okay. And then I was like, like Kamala can stick around. And then I
Yeah.
think, like, that's the other thing I like about YouTube is sometimes people be like, hey, I want to see such and such on the show. It's like, okay, I'll put her in there. Um, or we'll put them in. And like, I like that aspect of it too. And like, and I've told people, I don't think on newer stuff, but like, if you want to if you're watching like one of my booking videos and you want to see a match, like, just ask. I'll do it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to do that because sometimes, um, like I said, it'll bring a new face in, like maybe someone that I hadn't thought of, or I had more tied to a different territory, and then I would just be like, oh, okay, like that. I like them being in there. So, I'm much looser with that stuff, and like I don't know, like would you say? And the other thing I'll say is like, depending if you go back with my booking, and I don't know about you, but so sometimes if you watch my booking, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, I was obviously watching like a lot of world class when I booked this because you can see like the flavor, or like, oh, he was watching a lot of Jim Crockett promotions in like the mid '80s, like you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Because like one of the favorites I did is I redid like the early 2080s, and I might go back to that at some point, but I did it like old school TV where it was like squashes. So then I just made up a bunch of jobbers that use like the Ursa Major card. And a lot of what the ones I used was like the Legion of Superheroes. it made someone laugh on the boards all the time because one of my jobber tag teams was like the Vogons from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But like I just threw a bunch of like crazy like Legion of Superheroes. I think just a lot of like stuff like that, like stuff I was reading and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Like you'd only have like a main event every week, but it was fun, but it was very much a product of what I was watching at the time. But do you ever go back and like look at some of your stuff like, oh, I can definitely tell like I was watching Chikara or something when I was doing that.
I haven't gone back and read much. I'm almost scared to be like, oh, it's like, what was I thinking? I don't know. You know, not a lot, but yeah, I could totally see how if I'm watching a lot of this and I'm enjoying it, that's how I'm going to book it, because that is, I mean, that's what you're wanting to replicate with all these games.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually don't go back and read much because I always get mad at myself because I don't enjoy the good stuff I do. I always, if I read too much,
yes,
I see all of the avenues of feuds and stuff that were smacking me right in the
there,
face I didn't go
yeah,
to. And like in the moment it made sense, and even like in a greater sense I might have done the better thing, but I always see those like, oh man, like I had those two guys like kind of did this thing like a couple weeks and then I totally forgot about, like that would have been interesting, but then like
hmm
maybe it was just not, there's like context things of why you might not have done it, or I just forget sometimes.
yeah, or maybe you're more focused on pushing something else. That
Yeah,
that's why I haven't. I mean,
I
the
see
only
all
reason
the
I think I
mistake.
would go back,
I see
yeah,
all.
I think the only reason I would like go back and read some of it is if for some reason, let's say the Ace came back, ACE came back or something. I left. So that last set was 21-23.
Mm-hmm.
I did, I think, a full year after that. So I think my Fed would actually be ready for 21-25. Like I did enough that I would be ready. So I'd maybe go back and see how I ended it, because I did end it somewhat, but I left it open ended because I think I did a tie in with my Lone Star character, if I remember, when it all kind of wrapped up and Amazing Man was leaving and stuff like that. I would maybe go back and read it for that reason, but probably not otherwise, because I want to move forward. Um,
I even brought like
yeah,
when I did that, I had added some characters. Like I brought in like when they were doing the bonus cards on online, like I brought in the decaying factor,
the Kane
and
Factor,
then I brought in
uh,
zombie dreadnought
Zombie Dreadnought. Yep,
because I remember I did
yep.
I did I would do like comedy segments, so I would have Nameen because he hosted that show,
hmm
and I always do dumb stuff. And he had them on, and they were just like zombies, so they're just like brains. And he's like trying to interview them, and he's like, "Oh, like no, you guys wouldn't like my brains. Like they're all messed up." But like, so I kind of added some elements like that in there, because I always had fun
Yep.
with. I always did like comedy stuff like that in the GWFZ with Cuddly Claw. I always did like, because I always had him like the idea behind him is like he was always trying to merchandise everything.
Oh God. Um. Oh God. What was the gladiator that was in GWFZ? Or
Oh,
did a kid create him?
oh,
A kid
Rush,
created him. I mean, he's not a kid anymore. But
Rush.
what? Yes.
He he
I
yeah
think it was Rush.
he was Tom's son's friend. I think made him, and then he was in the GWF for a couple years because he teamed with
Didn't he have
Turbo.
his Z card as well? Or did I maybe
I think it was like an
do the one that
official.
was drawn?
I think it was like an official bootleg, and a lot of us just put him in the GWFZ because that was like at the time. But there was a
Yeah,
female
like it.
gladiator called Destina that you could get from I think like Rob or someone. Like there were some bonus ones
I I I think I used her as well.
then there's like
But
Saint
yeah, going back to
Bernard
Cuddly,
and stuff.
yes, Warner had some crazy ones there too for a while.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Cuddly Claw. That's a funny one because I remember I did Cuddly Claw, and I think it was Rush. He was with a gladiator, and so they were the Cuddly Gladiators. And I think
That's
I was running the
hilarious.
angle that Rush was pissed the entire time, but they kept winning. So I think I said one of the matches ended with him throwing Cuddly Bear and it hit the opponent and they fell down and got pinned or something. I can't remember how I
That's
wrote it, but it was
great.
like I somehow got them paired up and they won. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna have fun with this because the gladiator would not necessarily be happy with it, and Cuddly Claw is just Cuddly Claw. And so, yeah, I think I was calling them the Cuddly Gladiators, and the joke was he hated it. Rush hated it. I think it was Rush.
I
It,
actually
Rush would make the most sense.
I actually got a whole title program out of Plethador in GWF because he because remember when he had like the little like they introduced it later. It was funny like because he would dehydrate because he was an amphibian. But remember when Tom
Yes,
introduced I think like Squish or something that would like sit at ringside and spray him with a squirt gun to try and keep him from dehydrating. So I did this thing where he wrestled for the title just as a one-off, or no, it might have been non-title. And the little guy like went to like splash him with like a bucket of water to get him to not dehydrate and splash the champion with it, and it turned into this whole thing. I got like a month feud out of that. Like it's just the dumb little things that you can like do.
well, and that goes back to similar things that you all have talked about, and that's more of a Shad conversation of having humor in wrestling too. Like it's okay to do the silly things. Like we all know it's a show and it's supposed to be fun. So it's
Yeah.
okay if you have something that isn't serious or oh it's not realistic. It's like just run with it if you're having fun. If
Well,
the wrestlers are having fun, the crowd's going to have fun. And
I've told
so that
people they're like I mean you've seen it too, like the people that come on the boards and they're stressed about like how to book and stuff. And I always tell them, I said, you're booking for an audience of one. Like if you want Jimmy Valiant to dress as the Easter Bunny and beat up the champion with a giant carrot, like yeah, like I'm
do
gonna
it,
think you're dumb, but like if you think that's fun, like do it. Like you're doing it,
just
yeah,
do it.
you're doing it for you. Like that's the thing. Like
Yep.
I would say to anyone watching this that was thinking about maybe getting into a tabletop game or want a fantasy book, remember if you want to post it and other people watch it, like I think it's awesome when people comment like on my promotions and stuff. But at the end of the day, and like I said, I'll do matches and stuff, or I might like explore angles if people say, "Hey, you should try this." Like I'll do that. But at the end of the day, I'm just entertaining myself.
Yes, and that's the main thing. Like in any whether it's Champions of the Galaxy or GoFightPow, is you're there to have fun, and that's when I said when it starts becoming like work and you're stressing over it, you need to take a step back and
Yep.
try it again. And that's where like I like doing my YouTube videos. I felt like that was working, but I was focusing a little too bit on the wins losses, and
Hmm.
then I've been watching your glitter a lot, and I'm like I know he's not booking it like I've been booking, and I'm liking how this is going, and I need to just let go of the reins and just have fun with it. And really, when me and the wife were playing regularly, that's kind of what we're doing. We might do a little bit, but it's just you got to let it go and have fun. Because if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it?
Yeah. So let's talk about your YouTube. So your YouTube channel is Beefy Bites. I actually I like watching your show a lot because so you do a lot of I would say action figure unboxings, and then you get into what my favorite one that you do is the Pokemon cards. Like I always you
Oh,
did
I am so boring. I'm so sorry. There is so many more interesting people
and
than watching
well
me open cards.
you did it because Shad and I talked about that the Christian based CCG that Shad and I were shocked is still coming out. Was it Redemption?
Yes, yes. I think they were only on the second starter when I had kind of discovered it because I have the first edition starter and I have their second starter that came out. And it's one of those I've toyed around with. It looks cool. It has a pretty like solid follow up.
Yeah, because
And
they
they just released a new set that I need to get and look at. It's just finding anyone that plays it around here. I missed an opportunity. Someone invited me. It would have been about a 3 hour drive, but it was still
mhm.
within state or 2 hour drive. I should have gone to it because it seems pretty fun.
And they're smart
But
about.
yeah,
I think why they've lasted. So
yes,
they have a very smart, what I would say, um, philosophy to it. So they don't release a lot of cards. Um,
no,
they also don't really do rarity. Like they don't do like a lot of chase cards and stuff. So the idea behind it is, and I think they do what, like a set every year or so. Like they're
I don't
pretty.
even think it's that. I don't even think it's that often. I think, let's see. So I have set 1 and 2. This might only be the 5th or 6th starter set
Okay.
that they've ever made. I think they'll do special things once in a while, but what they also do is in some of the newer sets, they will have some of the cards from previous sets or the previous starter.
Mm-hmm.
So they fill it out that way. Now, I do think I noticed they started having cards in the booster packs called Roots cards,
Mm-hmm.
which is not the older cards, but it might be newer cards based off some of the older cards that now fit within
Okay.
the newer rules because
Oh,
they do have a legacy and a modern, and
because
it's
they've
they've been around.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
I think like the original rules are really simplistic, and they've updated a bit, so it's like a more what do I want to say, like it's a more robust system.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I think like
Yeah.
so what they've done, so what they've done essentially, I think is why they're successful is they do not inundate the market with cards, and they don't try to be a lifestyle game. They're like, okay, so we're doing this set of like 110 cards. You can get packs and stuff, but like you're not gonna have to chase. Like get enough packs, you'll do
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, and I mean they have their set market too. Like I mean it was created to go against the witchcraft and stuff that was in Magic the Gathering. I mean it's got that Christian backing, so that's
Yeah.
where it also has that market in place to it. Well, there's I think it's called Rob M Studios, and he does a lot of redemption. Um, but I mean some of its players too would be interested in, let's say, me opening redemption packs, but would refuse to watch me open Pokemon packs
Mm.
because it's not religious based, like
Yeah.
they do play to their base well, but
I think though, I would
I
say so as someone that like grew up in a religious household, like my parents weren't strict about stuff, but I've been in like Christian bookstores and stuff, and I've seen like Christian based entertainment, and it can be really hit and miss with that stuff. Like sometimes you get like Adventures in Odyssey, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, which is a Christian based radio show, which is very high quality, a lot of high quality voice actors. There's a reason like
Mhm.
Redemption is the same thing. Like
Yes,
some of that
yeah,
religious like base stuff can be really super low effort and cheap. And then sometimes you get something like this where like obviously it is religious, but like the creator, if you like see some stuff with him and stuff, he's very passionate about it. Like
yes,
he is
yeah,
like I think he is like at his heart he's a gamer. I think is where it comes from, and like he's
yeah,
very like the stuff I've read about, he's very very cautious about rules. Like he's very conscientious of like what like people would need to spend on it, like not tipping the game
yes.
on its head. Like he's a very savvy like game creator, I would say.
Oh, definitely. Like you said, like I could get into that, buy enough stuff, and like I probably already have enough stuff. Like when I was doing the card pack openings, I went for the legacy because those are
Mm.
the cheap packs. And some comments like you actually got some really good pulls for if you wanted to play legacy and stuff. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't know all the ins and outs and all the special things, but yeah, in terms of something like Magic the Gathering is like I don't I have a salaried job. I don't have
Yeah.
enough money to to play Magic the Gathering.
Well,
But yeah, I
they're
could
really
play. I
soaking
could.
their players right now. Because even Pokemon, like Pokemon's cheaper, but like I get them for fun. But it's like I shut down sometimes because it's just like you get a couple packs and then the next set's out, and it's just like I just want like some of the Pokemon I know.
That's why I liked. I don't know how popular it was. I heard mixed things from different people, but like the 151 set that came out, I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's the one I
yes,
like.
and the Pokemon Go one. I like the Pokemon Go one too, and I'm like, because these are the ones I know. These are the ones like I like the original ones. Some of the newer ones from the newer games, like I'll be honest, I've only played Red and Blue. Like I haven't like I tried playing X and Y. I never was able to get into Miss. I need to go and play gold, silver, and crystal. Those are the ones I
They
need to
have
play. But
they have an update for the 3DS, but it's very
mhm.
expensive. Oh, you do, and you do. Have I seen you doing Final Fantasy cards?
Yes, I have done some of that. So there is a local game shop here in town where I live, and the owner loves the Final Fantasy trading card game, so she is always pushing it. And so they had a starter set of Final Fantasy IV of a Golbez deck and a Cecil deck. So I got
Oh,
that
that's
and some
cool.
packs of cards. And I've played it with her. One day I showed up and I'm like, you know what? I got time. Do you want to show me how to play? And so gave me a deck, told me how to do it. It plays very similar to Magic the Gathering, except
Most,
for
a lot of them
you.
do.
Yeah, except for like when I play Magic the Gathering Arena on my phone, I'll sometimes get where I don't have enough mana, and because
Mm-hmm.
of that, I can't do anything. Final Fantasy kind of fixes that a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because you can discard for your mana. So, like, if I have cards in my hand and I discard a character card, that counts as a mana. Or I
Okay.
got backup characters that I can then tap, and so you're almost never going to get screwed over by having a lack of mana out there.
Yeah, that's the worst part
So,
about Magic is just like not having the mana to do stuff. Because my niece, because like my niece, she's older now, but when she was learning to play, like when she was in her early teenage years, you know how everyone like when they learn to play Magic, they get the big bad deck with all the expensive stuff. I'm like, well, okay, so this is your problem. You don't have enough mana. Like your deck needs to be a third mana. Like, and I would
mhm.
invest because like what I always specialized in is just trash mobs. Just like throwing a bunch of creatures out at people and like cheap spells that do damage. But I was like, okay, so yeah, your stuff, your stuff's too expensive. Like your deck flow is really bad. So like, I helped her with it, and then she was happy because she started winning. But like, I was like, okay, you need this much mana. Like, let's give you some, some mid range. You can still do some stuff, but like, that's always the funny thing, especially since I got to see a new generation do it, is seeing them like make all the mistakes I made when I learned to play in the '90s.
and and I do play Magic the Gathering Arena. I have yet to spend a penny on it. And I will get in the mythic tier of ranking every once in a while. I usually can easily get into diamond. And so I haven't bought any cards, but like one of my favorite decks around, I got a black deck and a red deck that seem to work really well for me. So if one's not working, I switch to the other. It
Mm-hmm.
usually pushes me up to where I need to be, and then I switch back. My red deck is literally a haste deck. So I only have one creature or one card that goes up to 5. I don't think I have anything that requires 6 mana. Most of it is 1 to 3, and I have a few 4s. And so literally, it's me like, okay, I'm getting all these guys out, and I'm doing. I'll have like 5 guys out that are only doing 1 or 2 damage, but I can get them out quickly. So that's and I have a lot of those like lightning strike do 3 damage, and so
Yeah, that's what
that
I do.
works really well for me. But I don't think it would be an expensive deck. Like I
No,
don't
the problem
think the
is
cards in it.
the problem is when you get into super competitive, like it doesn't work. But like especially against like even mid range players, I found that are super experienced, like um, people don't deal well with the speed. Like they don't deal well with like, okay, well I'm trying to do my thing, like oh crap, he's just like poking at me, and I try to get some stuff out, like oh he killed it, or oh I can't like,
Yes.
or oh I'm starting to do stuff, but oh crap, he's got like 6 things on the field and I can't. But the competitive people like meta decks just wipe that all out. So like you're kind of hosed in
Oh
that
yeah.
situation, but you get
Well,
good.
and when I
Yeah,
play people, I can tell those. I'm like, I'm gonna get screwed. I'm done. I'm like, I already know I'm done, but I'm gonna play it out. But
because it
yeah,
was hilarious when I was in college. I hadn't played since like junior high, and the guy was teaching me, and I built that deck again. And he was just kind of going through it, and then we were playing. He was teaching me to play. He's like, "You just killed me." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." But like we
but
we
yeah,
we
that's
did we did like a weekend thing, and I came out and I won like a ton, and they were good players. But like they finally like towards the end they were kind of adjusting to what I was doing. But like that's what I told her is I like just outspeed people, especially like you're playing preteens and teenagers. Like they are not going to be able to deal with you just throwing stuff at them. Like an experienced adult will probably like if they like that you might still sneak up on them because you outspeed them, but like more inexperienced like kids like are not going to be able to deal with speed. They're going to be trying to throw this big stuff out like you're doing, and that's like when I started waiting as a kid. It's like, oh, like you want to put out this like 8-8 monster? Like, well, I'll just kill you before you can get the mana up to do that.
Yeah, that's kind of what my red deck is. And then my black deck I call the asshole deck. That's what I named it. It's the asshole deck. So it consists of very low mana, and then I have like 2 4 level manas that it's like if I can get those out immediately, a lot of people will rage quit. Like it's and I even have that happen. I've joked with my wife before because I'll play it a lot when we're driving that I need to start a YouTube channel that is like these people suck because they refuse to like
Just
there's a
your
lot of people
troll
that rage
channel.
quit in matches. Yeah, yes, just the troll channel that's like your magic channel like so and so can't like I know I'm gonna lose a lot of these and I play it out because you never know. I might have something that somehow worked. Like I've had that happen before
I
where someone had a green deck and they kept building these characters where they had like 20 plus like or 12 to 18 like power. And so I was like, I got this one card that I can steal one of their characters and it gets haste for a turn. And I got them down low enough because I was picking with them. But it's
yeah.
like, I need him to attack with everyone. I block with everyone that I can. I can take so much damage. And then on my next turn, like, I steal their character and then, wallop them and win it.
Yeah,
So it's you got to play it out sometimes.
my
But yeah,
well,
the arena stuff, you will have
my
a lot of people
opinion
rage quit.
my opinion on that is I agreed to a match with you because I was in the match finder. I owe it to you to take it on the chin and see it to the end. That's just my philosophy. Like I feel like the people that quit are poor sports. Even if I get the W, like I also hate those people like in Hearthstone that like try to like they just sit there forever because they're trying to like get you to quit. Like I hate to me it's just like if we agreed to a match and you're going to kick my ass, like I will see it through to the very end.
Yeah, the only time I like quit is obviously if something family's going on.
Yeah.
But those people that's like, you could have killed me last round.
Yeah.
I'll give you another try to do it, and then after I'm like, sometimes what I'll do is like on my red deck, if I have a lightning, I'm like, I'll just strike myself with lightning and
Yeah.
be done with it. And so I've done that a few times. Or I'll be like, I'm gonna lose on the next hand, so I'm gonna do the honorable thing and take myself out so they can't take me out
Yeah.
with more damage on me. But yeah, the Magic the Gathering arena, you could download that, and if you just grind for a while, you could get enough free stuff to build your own deck. That's what
That's
I've
what I've
done.
heard about that. I need to do it. I did their whatever they had before Arena. I did that for a while. So I will say, anyone watching this, you should subscribe to Beefy Bites. It's a great channel, especially if you like seeing like toys and stuff. Like he does a lot of the DC, the cheaper DC toys from McFarland. A lot of TMNT. I think you've done like the Final Faction stuff from Dollar Tree.
Yep, a lot of that. We're been doing a lot of the Masters of the Universe Origins. We're really enjoying the Turtles of Grayskull Masters of the Universe
Oh,
crossover
that's cool.
right now. Those are my childhood, just mashed together everything I could have ever wanted in a toy line, and little guys liking it. But yeah, really, the whole point of my channel was he starting to watch some videos of other people playing with toys. And I'm like, I would like, I can do that with him. Now, if you want to watch unboxings, there's much higher quality, better videos out there. I'm not, I'm self-aware of that, but really, I look at it as, for the most part, my channel is pretty wholesome. The cards and stuff is more me, but really, I just have fun opening toys with kids. We were a little bit about YouTube tricks and stuff. One of the things I've learned is Godzilla usually gets a lot of views. Everyone I guess likes Godzilla. Like that's one of the things that I will always get views on is
Hmm.
Godzilla. And that was one of the first, like we found a Godzilla toy at at a surplus store, and he wanted to get it. And we opened it up, and I look at my video. I'm like, I'm over 1,000 views on this one video. It's like, but it was a Godzilla video, so so when talked to you earlier about that, like that's some of the interesting things I see. But for the most part, like we like having fun. You're probably going to see us play a little bit. Um, because it's
You
not as
gotta play with it
straightforward. We
after you.
unbox it.
Yeah, you gotta play with it after you open
Well,
it.
and I always like ask him like, should we leave it in the box? And he'll be like, no. It's like, let's open it. And it's like, because I was at one point in my life in which I bought, I think, some of the Powers of the Force. No, I still had some of those in the package, but I had some of the 2000X He-Man figures that were in the
Mm-hmm.
package, and I'm like, and I didn't end up buying all of them. I'm like, why? It's like I don't want to display them in the box, but I don't really
Yeah,
feel
I
like I have a
know.
reason to open them. I'm like, it's that thing, and then I had a kid, and I'm like, so we still play with our the He-Mans I played with. We still play with my old turtles. They're in buckets over here. Then we play with all the new ones. So it's just good, wholesome fun with him. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what we do. It's just our own thing. Um, just come have fun with us if if you want to see some toys out there and see all the fun you could have with your kid or whatever. Just do it because that's what I like. I mean, we opened up a new Mossman figure last night, and it turned into I ended up having what was a clean, cleared off room so we could do streaming to. There's two buckets of He-Man toys in there, and he's pulling everything out and stuff. I mean, the video that I recorded is 20 minutes long. It is
Wow.
20 minutes long, and so I'm like, well, I try to keep everything if I can under 10. Like my goal is under 10 because
Yeah.
my attention span isn't always that way. So it's really kind of fun and interesting. Like, okay, what like I need to make 20 minutes down to 10. What playtime can we keep it? What can I cut out to get everything down? Um, but no, it's fun. So like if you like that type of stuff, come on by, say hi. If you like the card stuff and only want to watch that, that's fine. If you only want to watch, I got a couple of music video compilations. That's fine too. Come by, say hi. Or I'm always up for like toy recommendations too.
Cool.
So
Well, Mr.
you
Beefy,
know, but yeah, no, we have a
I really appreciate you guest hosting this week. And as I've said to other people, especially friend of the show, Justin, you have an open invite. Like, you're always welcome. Like, we can also do other stuff. Like, if you ever want to review anything, just let me know. I really liked having you on. Like, this was really awesome.
well.
I
I
appreciate.
appreciate being here. I know I'm not the regular guest and stuff, so thanks for letting me ramble with you and talk about the games we've played over the years. I really
I
appreciate it.
love talking
Um,
tabletop stuff. It's so much fun.
well, and that's just like it. Just reminded me of some of the funny things like with Zombie Dreadnought and stuff, and
Yeah.
Cuddly Claw and stuff. It's like, oh man, I forgot about that. So now I'm kind of getting the itch to pull out some of those cards. But I'll get to play some Go Fight Pal this weekend though, because
Cool.
Icon. I'll be seeing Eric and playing
Oh,
with
I
him.
gotta
But
remember
yeah,
Icon. Yeah. Well,
yep.
thank you very much. So, everyone,
Thanks for having me.
this has been. I don't remember how Shad says it. This has been the 4 Corners podcast. Thank you for joining us always. Um, check out Beefy Bites. You can check us out on the podcast and social media. Hit the like, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.